Hello, I'm Leila Segabi, and welcome to a new episode of From Caracas. On today's show, we will be talking about reparations for slavery and colonization. Joining us today is Mr. Amzat Boukari Jabara. He is historian, African specialist, originally from the Republic of Benin and Martinique, a doctor of the School of Higher Studies of Latin America in Paris, and also author of many international reference books of pan-africanism and African politics. Mr. Amzat, welcome to From Caracas. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Thank you. So, what are the first manifestations of pan-africanism in history?
El pan-africanismo es un movimiento que nace en las Américas.
Pan-Africanism is a movement that was born in America, specifically in the Caribbean. It's the story of a million Africans brought to America in slavery and who, stirring up, they decided to fight for gaining their freedom. And the resistances were made reality in Haiti in 1884 when the Haitian Revolution took part. And we can say that the first manifestation of political pan-Africanism occurred in the Haitian independence. But there were also other manifestations of pan-Africanism because the word means the addition of all the elements of African origin for their survival out of Africa. For example, when we talk about African spiritualities, gastronomy, languages, and many other things belonging to the African descendants' history, in America, we talk about pan-Africanism. We can also say that it's manifested in the world when people of African origin is organized trying to show the African importance in their lives.
So, you evoke pan-Africanism as a philosophical concept, a social-political movement, and a doctrine of political unity. What is the definition of pan-Africanism?
We can say that there are 3 or 4 possible definitions for pan-Africanism because it's a historical movement and the historical conditions aren't the same nowadays. For example, in the 19th century, it was about fighting against slavery, and pan-Africanism was firstly a racial movement of people recognized as black, in which the fight for their freedom in America was decided, specifically in the United States, and it was called pan-Africanism, the union of all the black-skinned people. Then, at the end of 19th century, when slavery was ending, it was about colonization, decolonization to Africa. And many Afro-descendants peoples, by the time slavery ends, reached the dream of going back to Africa. And when Africa is seen, it's seen as a global Africa, a totality of the African continent. And at the same time, Africa is in a place where the European powers were sharing the continent. Since the London Conference in England, the pan-africanism became into an anti-colonial movement for the liberation of the African continent from the European powers. So we passed from a liberation movement and a fight against slavery in America to a liberation movement of the African continent. And since then, many pan-Africanist congresses have been made in the 20th century that try to elaborate an African liberation strategy. And this strategy is the political pan-Africanism. And at the end of World War II, it is when United Nations organization was established. Pan-Africanist militants asked for the liberation of Africa. And in that moment, leaders such as Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, the first nation getting its independence in southern Sahara. It must be understood that a country liberation is not possible only in Africa, but the liberation of the whole continent is necessary as an entire nation. And the issue of the African United States is established. And the African United States issue was a political battle at the end of the 50s and the beginning of the 60s, before the African decolonization. There was the Addis Abeba's Great Congress in 1963, where the organization of the African Unit was established, which works for the total decolonization of the African continent. But that's not precisely the pan-Africanism, because the movement was born out of the African continent, in the diaspora, the Afro-descendants, and when it developed in the African continent, a rupture is created in the diaspora. And we have to understand that Pan-Africanism has a global vision from the African diaspora, the global African family, and a very continental vision. And the objective is to make up the global vision and the continental vision of Africa. Nowadays, we have many Pan-Africanist trends. There is a trend very political with the African states that isn't true Pan-Africanism, due to its Pan-Africanism with a lot of neoliberalism, and on the other hand, a Pan-Africanism with social-political, social-cultural movements in the African continent, and also within the Afro-descendant movement that try to build a revolutionary Pan-Africanism. And that's the current topic of the fight. A revolutionary Pan-Africanism is today as necessary as in the 18th century.
So, in your book, you mentioned several times the division between intellectualization of the movement and the popular interest in Pan-Africanism. What can you tell us about this?
El movimiento
The Pan-Africanist movement was a fight movement in the Africans' blood that decided to resist the domination of slavery, colonialism, and capitalism. So we have a history very brutal. Also, we have part of the Pan-Africanism history that belongs to the intellectual movement, and we have two very important leaders. On one hand, the Afro-American sociologist historian W.E.B. Du Bois, who organized the Pan-Africanist congresses from 1900 to 1945. He was an intellectual that worked a lot on those books. On the other hand, we have another character, the Jamaican leader Marcus Garvey, who was very popular. He had an organization with more than 6 million militants, the NAIL. This tries to deepen the pan-africanism with the struggles of the people together with worker movements and young movements. And today, we have the same division between a virilitist pan-Africanism that is fed by the struggles of the peoples and a revolutionary pan-Africanism that just supports the masses. And the difficulty is to unite the 2 million of this pan-Africanism. For that reason, it's necessary that intellectuals make a work, a revolutionary sacrifice work, to participate in the struggles of the peoples. It's very difficult, but it's the only solution to join the different currents of pan-Africanism. For me, for example, I'm the secretary of the Pan-Africanist League Moja, that is a political organization that tries to gather the political movement. The Pan-Africanism at the level of international creations with Pan-Africanism at the level of the struggles of the peoples. That's why the implementation for a strategy is necessary. The development of a diplomacy with revolutionary governments is necessary, such as Venezuela, and also with organizations that fight with peoples in Africa and the diaspora.
Okay, so do you think that the historical truth about the crimes involved in the slavery of Africans, especially in order to be able to specify the magnitude of reparations, must be fully disclosed?
E penso che la magnitude della destruction
I think that the magnitude of the destruction that was the capitalism of slavery and colonialism is impossible to be estimated.
tanto importante che non si pueda reparar.
It's kind of relevant that it cannot be integrally fixed, but studies are necessary to obtain a damage evaluation of this history.
Y se trata de la historia de la riqueza.
And it's about the wealth history, which was created at Global North, and the relation between the current African underdevelopment and the situation of the North that maintains the exploitation of southern countries. The peoples from the South.
Necesita un trabajo de verdad.
And that's why a true historical work is needed. And at the end, the demographic impact is also necessary. We're talking about the human trafficking and the colonization beyond the current situation of the southern countries.
And do you believe there should be reparations to post colonial states? And why shouldn't they be only in an economic way?
We're living in a world whose economic order supports centuries of economic and social injustice.
Injusticia económica y social.
In a world whose domination by United States, France, England is supported by slavery and the colonial past of those countries.
Esclavista y colonial de esos países. Si
If they belong to the Security Council of United Nations organization, it's because they create a wealth supported by the slavery and colonization.
la colonización. Y pues cuando
So, when we talk about a repair, a global repair is being talked about. There is an economical repair for sure, because for example, the US wealth is created when black people trafficking was developed, the transatlantic trade.
atlántica, también el desarrollo
Also, the industrial capitalism in England,
en la Inglaterra
the Industrial Revolution, has its roots in slavery, in the amassing of money from slavery. So the economic repair is very important. At the same time, we cannot assume the economic repair issue with money. It's easy, very easy. We talk about the fight against racism and neurophobia because of the current situation of black populations in the United States. The way in which the racist police of United States kills black people. It's a consequence of the fact that United States have never done a social justice and repair policy. United States haven't been decolonized, and that's why the racist violence in the global north is a consequence of the rejection of a repair dialogue. A cultural repair is also needed. A black population involvement recognition in the history of America. It's a work done in the countries of Latin America such as Venezuela, also Brazil with the previous government, and many other countries of Africa. It's necessary to write this history, this historical cultural repair, and at the end working about the public policies of fighting against inequality that have their roots in this history of global domination. It's also important so the repair issue is built against the capitalism. That's why when the repairs are being discussed, we're talking about being against capitalism. For that reason, we just can't put this theme on the table in countries that are declared socialist, due to the repair issue is a deeply socialist topic. Thus, we want to walk forward a revolutionary socialism, especially in countries of Latin America where the repair issue is necessary to be included because it is directly related with Afro-Venezuelan, Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Colombian movements, and all other black people movements in America. That's why it's also a justice, political, social, economic, and cultural topic.
And what examples of colonization, slavery, and even genocide can you mention which in the past hurt countries like Haiti, South Africa, Rwanda, Nigeria, and even Libya?
Haiti es el centro,
Haiti is the center, the birthpoint of pan-africanism. It's also the birthpoint of economic debt because when Africans from Haiti took their independence against France, the second independence in America took place. The first one occurred in the United States, but that one is a racist, colonialist, and slave independence due to the system of slavery is kept. When the Haitian Revolution was started, it was an anti-capitalist and an anti-slave revolution. And that's why an economic debt is imposed to the Haitian people. And the burn of Haiti was the burn of what we present as the international community that is summarized to the United States, England, France, and other countries that impose an economic blockade to Haiti. While the economic blockade against Haiti was maintained, they participated in the liberation of the Great Colombia together with Simón Bolívar. That's why we maintain a direct relation between Pan-Africanism and Bolivarianism, and we have detailed that The Haitian situation is very important to develop and work the depth theme because the colony was the most important of the 17th century. And the whole history of capitalism can be written within the history of Haiti. Haiti was in a system of strong opposition. It's also about South Africa, which is a very important place for the capitalism history. The racism history, because there is a direct relation between capitalism and racism. And in the 20th century, when the apartheid system was established, the struggles to deconstruct the apartheid system take into account the repair issue. It's not only about the apartheid destruction, but the repairs of the damages caused by the apartheid system. For that reason, when the end of the political system of the apartheid in 1994 occurred with the election of Nelson Mandela, the South African political system had to be decolonized, had to put the repair and economic issues. And it's very difficult because it's about fighting against a very strong system, which is capitalism. That's why from Haiti to South Africa, there is a domination history that has its roots in capitalism.
So you were mentioning the Afro-American mobilizations here in Venezuela. Last year, Afro-American people's decree was set by the Venezuelan government. What would you contribute about this decree?
Pienso que la primera cosa es el reconocimiento
I think that
de los movimientos.
the first thing is the recognition of the Afro-descendant or black population movements in the history of each country of Latin America and America in general. A political position is also needed, and for that, I think that President Maduro is a vanguardist due to its legal topic as well. And it is needed that states and governments assume this position, and I think it's a help for scientists, researchers, and social Afro-descendant movements to jointly work. So, this decree is a very important help that shows the importance of the decolonization and the repair theme.
Mr. Amzat Boukari, thank you so much for joining us today here From Caracas. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. And like this, we've come to the end of this episode of From Caracas. I'm Leila Segabi. Until next time.